In the heart of the ancient kingdom of Zorya, there lay a city that pulsed with life, where merchants from distant lands came to trade, and where the sound of drums echoed through the air. The kingdom was ruled by King Aadil, a just and wise leader, whose strength was matched only by his love for his daughter, Princess Amina. Princess Amina was the jewel of Zorya, not just for her breathtaking beauty but for her compassion and wisdom, and she was admired by all. But despite her royal status, Amina longed for a life beyond the gilded walls of the palace, a life where she could make choices of her own, especially when it came to matters of the heart. Though Amina lived in splendor, her heart yearned for the freedom to walk among her people, to experience the world not as a princess, but as one of them. One morning, as the first light of dawn touched the golden palace walls, Amina made a bold decision. Disguised in a simple cloth dress of deep blue, her face veiled in traditional fabric, she ventured beyond the palace gates and into the vibrant marketplace. The market is alive with energy, traders selling woven textiles, clay pots, carved wooden statues, and baskets of fruits. The air is filled with the sound of drums and laughter. For Amina, this world was magical. The hum of everyday life, the laughter of children playing in the streets, the songs of women weaving baskets, it was a symphony of freedom. But little did she know, her destiny was about to change forever. As she wandered through the market, her eyes fell upon a man, a farmer with broad shoulders and a kind face, standing beside his cart of fresh produce. His name was Kofi. Kofi was no prince. He wore the earth on his hands and carried the strength of the land in his heart. But there was something about him that captivated Amina. Unlike the nobleman in her court, he was humble, gentle, real. As their eyes met, something stirred in both of them. Amina, though cloaked in her disguise, felt her heart race. Kofi, though unaware of her true identity, couldn't shake the feeling that this woman was unlike anyone he had ever encountered. That single moment, brief as it was, planted the seed of something much greater, something that would grow, despite the obstacles that lay ahead. From that day on, Amina returned to the market again and again. Each time, she and Kofi found one another, exchanging stolen glances and quiet words. Eventually, they began meeting under the great baobab tree, far from the palace walls and the eyes of the court. The baobab tree became their sanctuary. Beneath its shade, they spoke of their hopes and dreams. Kofi shared stories of the land he loved, of the crops he grew with his own hands, and the simple joy of watching the seasons change. Amina spoke of the heavy crown that awaited her, of her desire to live a life that was her own. The two sat close beneath the shade of the tree, their hands brushing against one another, their voices soft. With each passing day, their bond deepened. What began as a spark had now blossomed into love, an unstoppable force. Yet, their love was forbidden, for Amina was destined for a prince. One day, King Aadil called for a grand assembly in the royal hall. It was time to announce Amina's betrothal to Prince Jamal, a man of wealth and power, who would strengthen the kingdom's alliances. Amina stood beside her father, her heart heavy with dread. Amina's heart ached, for though Prince Jamal stood before her, Kofi consumed her thoughts, the man who had captured her heart beneath the shade of the baobab tree. That night, Unable to bear the weight of her heart, Amina approached her father. The king, seated on the throne adorned with gold, looked at his daughter with both love and expectation. She knelt before him, her voice trembling. "Father," she began, "I cannot marry Prince Jamal. My heart belongs to another, a man who is not of noble birth, but one whose spirit is greater than any prince's wealth. I am in love with Kofi, a farmer from our land." King Ayadil, though surprised, understood the power of love. But he could not allow his daughter to marry a commoner so easily. "If this man truly loves you," the king said, "then he must prove his worth. He will face 3 trials, and if he succeeds, you may marry him. But if he fails, you will marry Prince Jamal." And so, the stage was set. Kofi, a humble farmer, would have to face 3 impossible trials to win the hand of the woman he loved. But love is a force greater than any challenge, and Kofi was determined to prove it. The first trial that King Ayadil set for Kofi was to retrieve the fabled flower of eternity that bloomed only at the peak of the mountain of fire. No man had ever reached its summit and lived to tell the tale, for the mountain was known to be cursed by ancient spirits, and the path was treacherous, filled with jagged rocks and wild, untamable winds. But Kofi, with the love of Amina burning in his heart, embarked on the journey with unwavering determination. Kofi begins his climb, each step more difficult than the last. The wind howls, and the mountain seems alive with ancient, unseen forces. He stumbles, but rises again, his resolve pushing him forward. The mountain tested not only his strength but his spirit. For hours, he climbed, his hands bloodied, his body pushed to the edge of exhaustion. But as the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the land, Kofi reached the peak. There, hidden in the cracks of the rocks, he found the flower of eternity, its petals glowing with an otherworldly light. Kofi's second trial was to tame the wild stallion, a creature so fierce that no man had ever dared ride it. The stallion had been a symbol of raw power and freedom, and it was said that only a heart as pure as the earth itself could win its trust. Kofi approached the beast not with force, but with patience and understanding. He spoke softly to the stallion, whispering words that only the land and the animals could understand. His movements were calm, his eyes steady. Kofi reaches out slowly, the stallion still wild and defiant. But there is a shift, a moment of connection. The beast lowers its head, allowing Kofi to place his hand on its mane. A breathless silence falls over the scene. And in that moment, the stallion surrendered to Kofi's gentle spirit. With one swift motion, Kofi mounted the beast, riding it across the plains with a grace and power that stunned the onlookers. The untamable stallion had chosen its rider. The third trial was not one of strength or skill, but of the mind. Kofi would have to solve 3 riddles posed by the royal advisor, a man known for his cunning intellect. Failure to answer correctly would mean losing Amina forever. The first riddle was simple enough, but with each question, the difficulty increased, testing Kofi's knowledge of the land, the people, and the deeper truths of life. Yet, Kofi was a man of the earth. His wisdom came not from books or scrolls, but from his understanding of the world around him. As the advisor speaks the final riddle, the court falls silent. Kofi pauses, thinking deeply. Then, with calm certainty, he gives his answer. And once again, Kofi proved his worth, not through power or wealth, but through the quiet wisdom that comes from a life lived in harmony with the land. The advisor nodded, defeated, and the court erupted in applause. Kofi had proven himself not only to the king but to the people of Zorya. He had shown that true worth comes not from titles or wealth, but from the strength of one's heart and spirit. And so, in a ceremony filled with music, dance, and celebration, Amina and Kofi were Wednesday. The kingdom rejoiced, for their love had triumphed over all, over tradition, over obstacles, and the expectations of the world. And so, the story of Amina and Kofi became legend,